everybody on YouTube. I am Manayasha from Dreamvision Creations, and welcome to the third tutorial on how to add padding, elastic, and screen to your skull heads, and can be used for resin masks as well. In this episode, we'll be doing the padding for the head. We've already installed the 2-inch foam for the forehead brace, but we'll have to actually line that foam with some craft foam, also known as Foamies or silky sheets, to make sure it actually creates a nice barrier between your forehead sweating and the cushion foam. You don't want that on the cushion foam itself. But we'll also be installing the chin guard, essentially, which keeps your chin from sliding and actually allows you to do that articulated jaw. And depending on how your jaw is, you'll need very little padding or you'll need more padding for the jaw itself. Very little bit's going to go on the top of the head. This is more relying on your jaw movement, so that's where you're going to add the padding. We'll first start off with lining the forehead piece here. You could leave it as is, but I find it tends to get dirty faster, and you can't easily use a antibacterial wipe on the foam as you can with the craft foam. Since this is a closed cell foam, sweat and other particles don't tend to get through it as easily as this just soaks it up like a sponge, because it's pretty much the same basis. So with my 2mm craft foam, what I actually start to do is I just kind of lay this over top. This is where your elastic's going to become a little bit of a pain in the butt because it's going to be in the way. You can fold it over the forehead. Just kind of get it out of there. I like to lay this down and let it just shape around that cushion foam. Now I'll go back and use my marker. Actually, you can probably use a pen too, that'd be fine. And just roll up the edge of the foamies like this. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and use a marker, it'd be easier. Methods are changing all the time. And I'm just marking where that foam ends. Going all the way down. Got that one. I'm going to roll this other side here. What you can also do too is you can probably preemptively just cover the craft foam or cover the cushion foam with the craft foam before you install it in the forehead. I just find it easier for measuring to actually do it this way. And then push your foamies down so you know how far it needs to go. And then let's make an abrupt line here. So this is pretty much the shape that I need in order to cover that cushion foam. Because you also want to cover that cushion foam because it's white. You don't want that to show through the mask itself. So I'm going to create a little bit of a roundish shape here. I'm going to go ahead and cut these sections out. And I've got your basic pizza shape. You can go ahead and line this up and see how it looks. That's actually a pretty good fit. And you can see that now it's all nicely covered with the black foamy. And what I'm going to do, because it kind of cuts off right here, I'm actually going to cut that at an angle and round it off slightly more so it blends in to the plastic easier and you won't have that harsh line on your forehead. This is actually called a beveled cut, so it's actually cut at an angle. Now, since I know I don't need this big bar right here, I'm going to go ahead and use my box cutter very carefully and take some of this foam off, because what I'm noticing is it's actually blocking my vision a tad bit right there. So this line, I'm just going to cut into it very carefully at an angle, because you could try to go in here too aggressive with it, you might accidentally cut your mesh. So that's why you gotta be very careful. There we go. Just remove that little section there. And double check my sizing again. See, that's a lot better now. Now this isn't sticking up as much. So that's going to be a lot nicer when you're wearing it. Next step is I start adding some hot glue. I start from the front and work my way back because there's more room. And I'm just putting just little swirls of hot glue on this. Doesn't have to be super precise. I'm pressing down from the back first. Well, actually, I guess it's considered the forward section. And then laying my foamies down. And kind of tucking them in on the sides. I'm just using my knuckle as I press down this cushion foam, kind of rounding out this little section right here. Make it feel a lot nicer on your forehead. And now, I'm going to finish this section because none of this is really glued down to the plastic yet. It's all just glued to the cushion foam. I put that layer down and I'm just kind of pushing the foam forward towards the eyes this tad bit, and it creates a nice little nook for your forehead to sit in. There we go. And that is how I like to install my forehead padding. So this little area right here, this is the only section that your head actually hits. It's right here. And it feels, actually it's pretty much right here on your head. That's where it's located. So it's not on your brows, it's literally on this center point on your forehead. So you don't have to worry about any pressure points. Now the next step is I actually want to add just a little bit of padding right up here, just because I don't want my head to be sitting on this elastic. It's not going to feel very nice. So I'm taking my 3mm foamies. Now, like I said, depending on your head size, you can use thicker foamies if you want to, if you need extra support. But I like to take a big old strip of that. I'm guessing it's about 2 inches wide, 3 inches wide, and it's a full length of a sheet, so 3 by 12 inches. I like to lay this in place where the hinges are and everything. This pretty much helps cover up any of the plastic that's remaining. It covers up the elastic you put in and also the rivets that are on the side of the head. Now when you're putting this in place, you'll notice that some of the foamies is actually kind of hanging off the edge here. I'm just holding this in place. You see how this is hanging off right here? Just to clean it up, I like to take my marker and just kind of mark this so it shapes around this area better. I'll do the same thing on the other side. The other side's being more difficult. The elastic doesn't want to behave. There's 2 areas right there. I'm going to go ahead and just cut them. Like I said, you don't have to do that, but I just find this cleans it up like a lot nicer and fits more of the curvature. I also like to cut and round out these edges. Just like that. I'm going to measure again, just make sure it's all lining up nice. What I'm going to do is actually just temporarily tape that elastic because this is getting in the way. There we go. That's better. Now again, this padding is not under any extreme amounts of stress, so you don't have to be super picky about how much glue you put on there. Just enough to hold it in place. So I'm just gonna, again, swirl the glue around on there, just enough to hold it. And the Foamies will give you a little stretch too, so don't be too worried about pushing it around a little bit. Here we go. Like I said, it's just a pad up the top of the forehead, so when you put it on, it's nice and comfortable. Now the tricky part is actually working on the chin guard. Now, again, I've got my own little method of doing this. If you do happen to have access to Worbla plastic, this makes the process far easier to do because it's just one step instead of three. If you have Worbla, you can actually heat up the Worbla and form it to your chin to create a chin cup, and then that can literally just be glued right into place because it becomes a solid once it cools down. Now, Worbla is this material right here. This is actually Worbla mesh. It has a mesh built into it. They have regular Worbla, and then they have Worbla black. All these are fine to use for chin guards, and like I said, it just makes this perfect little like cup around your chin to sit in place. You can actually buy these online, and all you need is a heat gun to start using them. But I'm going to show you the cheaper method of doing this instead of having to order the thermoplastics, and something that everybody can do. And the first thing I do is I have this shape here. Now this is actually cut at a semicircle of a semi-flat edge, and there's two angled sections here on the side. Now when I cut these, as you see, I have a beveled edge right around here. And what I did is I took a piece of foam that was just a rectangular shape, and I just kept cutting away at it until it fit nicely in the skull, like this. And this is your chin stopper. So this will be almost a vertical angle, and it'll be, let's see if any way I can show this while holding it in place. And as you can see, it's pretty much all this is designed to do is to stop your chin from going too far into the skull. So once you have that all measured out, and you have it, you know, sitting there just in the right spot, you'll keep putting your head in the skull and testing. When this thing fits on your face, it should go just like this. Just underneath your lips. Like I said, it's designed to keep your chin from going too far forward in the mask. So it makes it very comfortable, and it allows your jaw to move properly in the head. So what I do is just put some glue on this. Again, use high temperature hot glue because you'll be pushing this around until you get the right shape. Kind of globbing it on there, all around the edge. said, I'm going to try my best to actually show you guys how I'm doing this. But it's really difficult with one hand. And not putting it in my lap. I do everything in my lap. As much as I try not to. Usually at some point or another it ends up in my lap. So right now I'm creating that stopper. Curving it into shape. And using my knuckles kind of press down. Foamies are very forgiving, so you can actually, while it's still warm, mold it a bit. You can also use a heat gun too to mold the foamies. But there you go, there's your vertical chin guard. Again, I'm trying my best to show this. It's really difficult because it's inside of a mask. And it's black. It feels really nice. Now, since the chin cup's actually a little low, I did this because everybody's got different size faces, and I want to make sure I make my skulls big enough. Since I know that majority don't have very large chins, I'm actually adding some padding here. Again, this is 6mm foam. So a little tiny strip of it, just right here. I'm hoping at some point in the future to actually somehow make and mold chin guards. So my customers can just buy them and then you can just cut them to size. And that will make this process a lot easier. Because you can just buy chin guards. Technically, if you wanted to, you could actually use like football helmet chin guards, I think. You buy them at like Walmart and stuff. But they are very bulky and sometimes they might be too big to put into the masks. And really the only thing you're trying to do is just keep your chin from sliding around. So you can use craft foamed and it works just fine. Okay, now the last step can be a little tricky. You can do this two ways. One, you can do literally just a half U shape of foam here because you want to still have this covered. Or two, the way I like doing it is taking my 2mm foamies, and like we did with the padding up here, is I actually form a nice cup in the mask by just using my knuckle and kind of pressing it down and making the foamies work for me and get into that chin shape. Sorry, I'm kind of doing this off camera a little bit. It's really difficult to do this otherwise. Okay, so there we go. You see that little divot right here? That's just from me pushing my knuckle and swirling it around in the heat of my finger, creating that shape. So now it's got a divot. So what I'll do is blob some glue on here. Try not to make it too thick. This is literally just to hold the foamies in place. You gotta be pretty quick about this. Get your knuckle in there and start pushing it around. Don't allow the foamies to fold over on you. You want to keep it flat. Flat means comfort. And I'm just literally molding my knuckles in that shape that I created and keeping the foamies flat, making them stretch. So it creates a nice little pocket for your chin. And just the heat from my hands moving along the foamies is molding it in place. You could use a heat gun, but you don't need to because the foamies themselves are not very thick. It's only 2mm. So just by the heat of my knuckles, I'll be able to create a nice, comfortable cup. Now, you've got all this extra material in here that you don't need. I'm going to literally flip this thing inside out. Oh, look, you can see. Yay. And using my marker, you could just start cutting away at this. But using my marker, I'm marking off, just folding it over, marking off all this extra material that I want to remove. It's best to have too much than not enough. And just down here, also remove all of this. We don't need. And using my little exacto knife, I'm going to go ahead and remove this extra material that I don't need. I've already got everything marked off, so it makes it super, super simple. Now be careful, you want to make sure your knife is actually pretty sharp and you're doing a little sawing motion. If you try to cut this with a dull blade, you might actually rip the foamies. Because like I said, they're not very thick. And then what I actually like to do for the foamies here is I give it about like, I'll say about 1/4 of an inch extra material from the line that I marked. You can see a little extra edge here, so I can actually wrap that around this plastic. It's a lot more comfortable for that to hit your like neck area than it is for the bone plastic to hit. So to finish this up, I just put a light amount of hot glue around this edge. Again, this is hot glue, so be very careful of the glue that squirts out. I'm just pressing down this little rim. So I got a nice little rim right here, the foamies. And then on the inside, I did leave a little extra all around the edge here. You can see it's all a little wrinkly looking. Take my glue and just put some glue around the top edge of that 6mm foamies that made the main chin guard. And same thing with the bottom. I just wrap those thin foamies around. A little bit more complicated. You want to make sure you get the hot glue off your fingers. I'm just pressing down all along the edge here, making a nice clean transition. Yeah, stop it, hot glue. And if you have any hot glue, like I've got a little rim of hot glue right here, just take your exacto knife and make squeaky noises and cut that glue off, because that's going to be really obvious in your mask. Now if you have a tongue in your mask, you won't see that section at all. So that right there is a chin cup. And it'll perfectly fit your chin. It actually sinks in a little bit right here, so it'll completely hold your chin in place. And I don't even have any of the springs attached. I'm literally just holding the top of the head right now, and this is the chin cup doing all the work for me. So you can imagine when you actually have the elastic down, And like I said, I made it slightly bigger than my size head because I have a tiny head. Actually, I accidentally glued the elastic in the wrong spot. Oop. Oh well, doesn't matter, it's just right there. And that's without the springs. If you want to attach the springs, which is one of the very last steps, you use a pair of needle nose pliers. I've had a lot of people ask this. There's 2 springs on either side because of the weight of the jaw. So you take your needle nose, you can grab a hold of the ring. You'll see a little hook right here. You'll hook that to the hole that's already provided in the bottom. Open the jaw up a tad bit. It's gonna be a little tricky. Push that hook into place. And do your second one. That's what one side looks like. Do the same thing on the other side. The first one's always the most difficult because it's so close to the skull itself. You need needle nose pliers in order to do this. You're not going to be able to do it with normal pliers. There we go. Well, this is just me pulling on the bottom jaw. Really good snapping action. Again, I had to hold down the top of my head because I have tiny head syndrome. And that is your skull ready to wear, and then from here you can either just add it to your already existing costume, or you can actually start building a hood on it with ears and other crazy accents, which I'll be covering in another video. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please add it to your favorites and subscribe to our channel.